Before we start, I wanted to acknowledge something. Several days ago, a subscriber commented on a video asking a basic question. Would we, as traditional Catholics who allegedly love the Church, allegedly being his word, not mine, pray for the Cardinals' meeting at the end of the month that the Pope would do the consecration of Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, as per Our Lady's request at Fatima? Or would I just continue to nag the bishops at their meeting? I don't usually respond to those kinds of comments, but I actually will here. On the first account, the subscriber is correct. So, to that end, I am going to ask for people to pray a novena to Our Lady of Fatima, that the Pope will announce a consecration to the Immaculate Heart of Mary and order the bishops to follow his lead, fulfilling Our Lady's requests. Honestly, we could all do with a little more prayer anyway, and there is a good novena to Our Lady of Fatima. It is found on the Sources blog linked in the description. The intention should be that the consecration be done, with the start date being February 12th and ending the day before the meeting starts. Again, he makes a good point on that. However, will I continue to neg the bishops at that meeting? If they arrive at that meeting and do absolutely nothing of substance, or if they engage in diversionary tactics, I absolutely will neg them, as should anyone else. To this day, they are actively ignoring the presence of men unfit for the priesthood in the ranks of the clergy, from the lowest deacon to those men surrounding the Pope. Unless they purge the priesthood, this problem will continue, and that doesn't even begin to address the crisis of modernism in the Church. But if they do address the problem at hand, I will give them praise and credit where it's due. But I have serious doubts about that. But the request for praying for the consecration is legitimate, and I endorse it. There are amazing things that happen when groups of people pray the rosary. If they don't take steps in the right direction on that score, though, then I'll probably make another novena request in the future. Now, on to the topic at hand.
So how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
You know, it's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the third trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make at that point.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
There are moments in life when principles that you hold to, that you think you understand, suddenly become very real. At that moment, you realize things had been abstract until that important moment. For the issue of life and the cult of death, that moment came for me this past fall. In October, my first child was born. Earlier that day, or possibly the day before, I had heard something related to child killing in the news. That first incredible moment when I held my son in my arms, my mind briefly flashed back to that news article. I was filled very briefly with a sense of rage. Seeing him in my arms, tiny and helpless, made all the pieces of the debate between life and the cult of death fit together neatly into something more than merely abstract. It all hit home in a way that even the most graphic anti-death displays deployed by activists ever possibly could. And I was angry because at one point in my life I had been on the other side of the issue, in those far-off miserable days before I converted to the Catholic faith. That all became relevant again with the sudden panic by secular leftists in the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, and the sudden and mysterious disappearance of Ruth Bader Ginsburg from public life in the past month. For the first time since the 1970s, the issue of institutionalized death might be lost to the secularists. The sudden push to promote this evil does show that they, too, had their come-to-full realization moment like I had holding my son in my arms. I was confirmed in my view in an unshakable way, as were they if the sudden onslaught of evil legislation is any indicator. Let's have a look at the states considering bills like New York. 2 weeks ago, New York signed into law its bill legalizing infanticide. If you saw the video I did on that subject, you know the rage that I felt at not only the passage of that law, but also the glee with which the apostate governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, turned the One World Trade Center into a trophy to Moloch worship. Last week, the Party of Death in Virginia attempted to get a similar law passed by the legislature. It was defeated in part because of the statement in support of killing until the moment of birth portion of the bill, made by a sponsor of the bill having gone viral on the internet, causing outrage. The other reason the bill was defeated was because the state legislature is controlled by the party of usury, not the party of child killing. The governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, had these chilling words to say in his monthly interview on a local radio station about the bill.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the...
Mysteriously, Governor Northam was outed days later for his questionable picture taken in college of him in blackface. And in the days since that happened, at least 2 more high-ranking members of the Party of Death have had similar pictures from their past come to public light. The socialists in the Party of Death's more extreme wing are calling for his ouster. While I don't care about pictures taken in college or high school 30 years prior, I do like seeing these people held to their own twisted standards. And one less politician of the Party of Death in the public sphere is completely fine in my book. Not that I'm a giant fan of the Party of Usury either. But notice that the conversation has changed regarding Virginia. The news from Virginia no longer is about the Party of Death attempting to spread Moloch worship in Virginia, but is turned into the sins of the highest-ranking official who was stupid enough to embarrass their cause further by committing sins against the secular commandments of the religion of social justice. The narrative in the media has as a consequence changed. But Virginia isn't the only state pushing for legalizing the killing of this monstrous kind. There are, at the time of the production of this video, several states that have pushed for or already legalized third trimester child killing. They are Alaska, Colorado, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, D.C. There are other states that we should expect to see jump on the Molochian bandwagon. These include California, Hawaii, Maryland, and others with a strong Party of Death majority. There are even rumors floating that the Party of Death in Texas is pushing for the same thing in that state, and will probably get their chance once demographics shift enough in Texas to flip the state in their favor, and that is going to happen sooner than most people think. But we know this is going to happen. After all, once the court flipped for what looks like at least a generation against the Party of Death, the states began talking about either banning or completely liberalizing that heinous practice. All because they expect Roe to be overturned in the coming years. With the failing health of Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the minds of political people right now, almost everyone expects her to be replaced by a justice who will be pro-life, though people should probably lower their expectations on that score. The move to spread Moloch worship is very real because of that. The madness we see with frothing at the mouth followers of the pagan ideology of feminism will be on full display when that appointment comes. Just watch. The cult of death will be on full display. But the spread of Moloch worship isn't limited to the local, state level of politics. In the United States Congress, the Party of Death blocked a bill by the Party of Usury that would require medical assistance for babies who survive abortions. If you watch the State of the Union address, you'll see that the call to end late-term abortions made by the president received stony silence from the members of the Party of Death in Congress. Why? Because child killing is the highest sacrament of the leftist pagan cult being promoted to our children and on television right now. It is a sacrament of their cult of death that is promoted. I'm not suggesting that people jump on board the Party of Usury's bandwagon to stop them, as it's obvious that they have been complicit in this practice. But just know this. The craziness you've seen in the public sphere is only going to get worse as we get close to that court replacement. And if, or God willing, when Roe joins Dred Scott as the worst decisions ever made by the court having been overturned by the Supreme Court in American history, the rage you'll see on the streets of America will likely be unprecedented in history. Ask yourself how that was permitted to happen, how this country and the West got into this awful position. I'm still filled with seething anger at these people. It sent me to confession more than once. I pray that it doesn't happen again. It probably will, because I am a wretched sinner, which is why this weekend's church document uploads will likely be more positive. I need it as do you, I'd bet. As always, thank you for listening and for your support, especially to my patrons. pray and do acts of penance for the liberation and exaltation of the Church. I'm Anthony Stein. Viva Cristo Rey.